Welcome back to Out of This World. I got Courtenay Turner back for you all, the best in the business, and she has got two bangers of articles on Substack that everybody needs to go and read right now. And we are going to be discussing the first one of those tonight and the second one shortly after. And I wanted to show you a couple photos, Courtenay, and all you guys, because this isn't going to make sense until the end of part two. But yeah, I don't know if you knew this, but I am a world champion at I see where this is going. Okay, so
Yeah.
right? And you are too. I know you're right there with me. But I've been saying these things and people just brush it off like, oh, that will never happen. And it happened. The next day I opened my app and I'm like, look, it's happened. Okay. So here's some photos that are a little confusing. I'm going to let you decide. There's the first one. What do you think?
So we have like a spirit and
This is a new phenomena that is happening. Orthodox girls wearing niqab like Islam.
what?
So, oh yeah. So here's another one with a cross in there by wearing the niqab and Hello Kitty right there in the background if it's not weird enough for you.
Yeah, I see it. Yes.
Yeah, here's another one. You've got Theotokos and she's veiled.
And these are Orthodox Christians.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the artwork looks like Orthodox, but wow.
And yeah, here's another Christian praying to a cross but veiled like Islam. So,
Wow.
so
And
strange.
are they wearing out of church or just in church or?
I haven't seen this personally. This is just online.
Okay, yeah.
But you know how things that fester online, usually
Yes.
you see them in the wild later on, or this is just like kind of where this stuff is going in the future. But I just wanted to start out with that because it's so weird and dissonant. And the show is going to be called American Sharia, a technocrat's dream. And Courtenay wrote some great articles where she took three elements and showed how they are going to converge in our digital enslavement, really. And this is where a lot of this submission stuff comes from, this BDSM, this idea that we are slaves to men, that women have to be all in all, always submit to all men all the time. That is not true. And this is because they are creeping, crawling towards Chrislam, or just like the unification of all of these ecumenical religions into one totalitarian tyranny, right?
Yes.
And so I just wanted to, let's start out with Christian nationalism real quick,
Okay.
because it's natural that once a country, reaches a certain threshold of citizens, the majority, Christian, let's say, people, that its laws and its statutes are going to start to reflect those kinds of values because those people get elected into, positions. And so that starts to happen on its own. But there are limitations and boundaries to the type of things that you can enforce. For one, you cannot force people to convert to Christianity as you can in Islam, right? That's not our thing. It's a
Right. That's not Christian.
yeah. It has to be
The free
voluntary.
will thing is in there. Yeah. I believe that's part of, yeah.
So you can't force someone to go to church or believe or do any of these things, but you can enforce a law that is based in theology. Let's say if you have, a religious sect that says it's our sacrament to sacrifice babies, right?
Right.
So you do not want to have laws that say that this is okay because this is going above and beyond, reason and free will and living in a society. And I'm not even going beyond the realm of what happens, because there is a certain small segment of occultists and witches online that say that abobos are part of their sacrament.
They used actually the 1993 Religious Freedom Act to justify
Mhm.
that act. Yeah, because they part of their religion. It was a ritual. So
Mm-hmm. So there are certain extensions of freedom that we can't allow in good conscience, right? Like PDOs, stuff like that.
right.
That has to be
Yeah.
against the law in any society. Um, but I see the people who are the spearheading of this Christian nationalist movement. I do not trust them. Courtney doesn't trust them.
I don't trust them.
They're in cahoots with the technocrats. They're wacky. They have some strange, archaic ideas about roles and gender roles and just all kinds of ways that society needs to run. And I've seen the new flag. I don't know if you are aware the Christian nationalists have their own flag. Have you seen that?
I have seen that. I don't remember what it looked like though. Do
Yeah,
you
like,
have it?
yeah.
Uh, Um,
It is called the Appeal to Heaven flag.
oh, jeez. These people are nuts.
And I mean, I don't want to say they're nuts because I'm on their team, but they are nuts sometimes, right? So it's like things that I want to see happen.
I don't feel like you're on their team. Like the thing that I really try to make very clear is like I'm not attacking people who are Christian and
Exactly.
patriotic.
Right.
Like there's a big difference, first of all, between even nationalism and patriotism. They're not synonymous. They're similar, but they're not synonymous.
Mhm.
Second of all, these are people, they call themselves Christian nationalists. They're very explicit about that. So it's not me labeling them. I'm not like, giving them some sort of a name or calling them. I'm not being like a derogatory or pejorative. Like this is actually what they call themselves. And they explicitly say they want a theocracy.
Mhm.
So that is in like fundamental opposition to the very First Amendment of the United States of America. So regardless of what you think about the Constitution, if you live in this country, that is the very First Amendment, and it is diametrically opposed. That is actually why the Declaration of Independence was created, was largely, and it's partly why it was the very First Amendment, was because they were fleeing the Church of England, which was a theocracy.
Mhm.
And they did not want any kind of reinstatement of any kind of theocratic institution. So, I'm not attacking Christians. I'm not attacking even nationalists. I mean, I have my beef with nationalism, but I'm all in favor of patriotism. But this term, this Christian nationalism, where they literally want to subvert, it's a subversive movement. They want to subvert the Constitution and they want to replace it with a theocracy and with what they call biblical law.
Mhm.
Although I would argue, and this is, it's not for me to judge, I don't even think they're really Christian because,
Yeah.
as you said, it's not Christian to force people into your belief system.
Mhm.
It is not Christian to, create this kind of, a lot of them are creating hate and strife and division.
Mhm.
That doesn't sound very Christian to me. There's all sorts of things that they're doing that to me don't even seem Christian, and they're definitely not American. So and I feel like they're using it as a cover for a political movement. And it's really about usurpation of power. It's not about, their religious beliefs. People can have their religious beliefs, and I champion that, absolutely. But, don't use it as a cover for a political movement.
Here's the flag. Appeal to Heaven.
Yeah, right, with the Christmas tree. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's a pine tree. And
yeah.
this was actually, it already has been raised in Washington, D.C. over the Small Business Administration headquarters in June. So they're getting people comfortable with this. It could be seen being waved on the whole January SIX
Right. Yep.
debacle. And that became associated with the Stop the Steal. And so this Christian nationalist flag, this Appeal to Heaven flag, is now another symbol of the far right. So I wonder sometimes when I see people with a pine tree in their bio on Twitter, is that I don't know.
That's probably, yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably like a signal, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's what I would think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this isn't even a new flag, though. This is actually an old flag since 1776. It was the official flag of the Massachusetts Navy, and it was the pine tree on a white field to symbolize an appeal to God to save the colonists from oppressive kings. So this is the irony of the whole thing because it was taken from John Locke's treatise on civil government, and them separating themselves from, what was it, King George, tyrant King George of the time.
Right.
But now it's being used to kind of fold people back into this enchilada of doom, this technocratic digital prison, and they're using this appeal to heaven. I went to the website called providencemag.com that was talking about the historical, aspects of this flag, and there was two articles, and one was the appeal to heaven and our new Revolutionary War. So they are already thinking that this is going to be a symbol of another revolution, and then fighting a tyrannical ruler. So
Wow, that's very interesting. I just looked up like that flag, and it seems like it's part of the NAR, the New Apostolic Reformation movement.
mhm.
They're the ones who believe that that they're the apostles and prophets, and
Uh-huh.
so they're doing it like in the flesh, and they have the divine mandate. So what they're doing has been, they're dominionists. So that's another point that I wanted to make, was that I'm like, Christianity and dominionism I don't really necessarily see as synonymous.
Mhm.
And a lot of there are various sects of these kind of Christian nationalists, but definitely the NAR, they believe in dominionism. So it's this idea that the Christian church should rule over everyone,
Mhm. Well, this
and
is, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
all areas of society, which obviously is not American. So
So this brings two things to mind. One was Fred Phelps. Do you remember that guy? So
yeah,
he was the pastor of the Westboro Baptist Church.
right.
And they would travel around and boycott basically like people's funerals, and just really déclassé, acting tasteless, boycotting just crazy things. And their signs would say, God hates FAGS. And they would make the news all the time because they had these like professionally printed signs, and they were able to travel around the country. It seemed like every other week they were, God hates FAGS all over the country. And I'm like, how did this little church, like I grew up in little Baptist churches, like fundy, independent, like small cliques. I'm like, nobody in those churches has money and time and resources to travel around the country boycotting anything with professionally made signs all the time and making news all the time. So I'm like, this has got to be some kind of Fed psyop.
Funded, yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about right now. Like, do not be deceived by these people. And I think this is a good time to play this little clip. Operation Missionary. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. The CIA is always coming up with these old missions.
CIA is a fake church. The theory, declassified documents prove it. During the Cold War, they launched something called Operation Missionary. It used fake Christian missionaries and churches as covers for CIA agents, especially in Asia and Latin America. They trained agents to act like pastors, preach, hand out Bibles, justify. And get this, they admitted it put real missionaries at risk, but kept doing it anyway. One actual CIA memo said, religious cover is especially useful because it allows freedom of movement and gathering information under the radar. Think about that. How many so-called pastors today are really working for the government? You can look it up. CIA plus missionary program. It's not fiction. It's public record now. If they were willing to infiltrate churches, how deep does the deception go? The CIA created a fake.
Stop. So that's what we're talking about tonight.
Yeah.
You think they
Wow.
stopped at the Cold War? I don't think so.
Probably not. Probably not. Wow, I didn't actually know about that, but that makes perfect sense. I mean, what I'm seeing is just like a pervasive kind of use of Christianity as like a cover for many movements. A lot of them are these technocratic movements. So, yeah.
And then you have people saying, I'm not going to say who said this, but he did say that Christians are the most gullible target and they will believe anything and buy anything because they want to believe in the good. You know, that's the sad part about it, is they want to see the good in people and they get exploited that way.
Right.
But luckily, I'm here to see all the bad. Me and Courtney are gonna see it. We're gonna point it out because she wrote this great article called Phoenix Conspiracy. And this is what I've been talking about when we do shows like Secret Destiny of America and the occult side of it and all of the woo-woo stuff he's talking about. Me and Courtney have been pointing that out with the UN and our shows about the cosmoerotic, what was it called? Cosmoerotic
Humanism.
that's
and that's going to make a reappearance in my next article that we'll
okay.
do. Yeah, it's in there.
So what we are seeing here is the techno-feudal empire built on the ashes of the republic, they say. And so Courtney has outlined that tech billionaires, anti-democratic philosophers, and Christian nationalists have a master plan to quote unquote phoenix the republic, right?
Yes. Yeah. So, for those who aren't familiar, I did a video on Brett Weinstein and Game B, Phoenixing the Republic, and that's actually how I discovered Game B, was because Brett Weinstein did this video. It was a speech for Rescue the Republic, and this was like a medical freedom movement kind of event in Washington D.C. And I think it was in 2024. I don't remember exactly what month, but so he does this speech, and at the end of the speech, he spends the first of all, the beginning of the speech, the whole speech, he's talking about the West. We have to save the West. And I found that very kind of interesting because the title is Rescue the Republic. Now, I understand the United States is a byproduct of Western civilization. I certainly care about the West. I care about the world, all people. But it's not, the Republic is not the West. So that just struck me as odd, right? Because to say Rescue the Republic is very specific. So we're talking about the United States of America, constitutional republic. And then he spends most of the speech talking about, the West. And then he says, he repeats, the very famous line that Ben Franklin was asked, sir, what type of a government is this? And he says, it's a republic if you can keep it. And he said, well, it's a republic if you can phoenix it. And I was like, Phoenix the Republic? What does that mean? And it wasn't a throwaway. He spent 5 minutes after that proceeding to explain why we have to Phoenix the Republic. And then I started to think about, the symbolism of Phoenix, and where we heard this before. And the first instance that I was familiar was with Tavistock. I've done so much research on Tavistock, and there's an Operation Phoenix in Tavistock. So out of the ashes of World War II, they got a grant from the Rockefellers, which allowed them to restructure and create from the Tavistock Clinic an offshoot, which was the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations. They're similar, they work together, but the clinic's much more focused on personal therapy, group therapy. The institute is more research and corporate, more mass scale kind of production. And so they had to gut everything, and they were using these tactics that were developed by Wilfred Bryan and Eric Trist out of when they were working with the British military to create like leaders for the military. And so they used that strategy in those tests. They were called the War Office Selection Boards, and they gutted everything because you have to tear it down to rebuild it, right? That's the Phoenix, so it can rise up from the ashes. And then, of course, we've got Operation Phoenix with the CIA. And then we've got, several others. And there is a very recent one, and I outlined this in the article, but there is one that is going on right now. It's called Operation Phoenix. It is an independent movement to flood Congress in 2026 with quote unquote independence, which I think is AKA technocracy, but it is using third way politics. So I did an article, it's a shorter article that was called The Technological Age of Aquarius, Third Way Dream or Digital Dystopia.
Mhm.
And I kind of outlined this there, but I do it in this article also. And talking about how they're using third way politics. So for people who are not familiar with that's out of Fabian Socialism, Anthony Giddens wrote the famous book on third way, and he talks about how it's the radical center. And so what do we have now? We've got Elon Musk talking about how, gotta
He just
ignore these
tweeted that.
crazy extreme.
Yeah,
He
he
made
said, "Are you
me
tired of the uniparty, two-party system? Let's make a third one. Like, we're gonna trust you." Yeah, right.
right. And so
Not
yeah,
again.
yeah, right. Not again.
No,
Fool me
because
once. Yeah.
he promised us Doge and like cleaning up the swamp and stimmy
Oh
checks
yeah.
and all kinds of goodies. And then what do we get? A new AI PORNO girl,
Yeah.
right? Your Grok girlfriend who looks
Uh-huh.
like the most basic, stupid AI anime cartoon character. There was nothing even avant-garde about it. It just looked like what kids have been having impure thoughts too for 20 years
Yeah.
already, you know what I mean? And then they came out with the AI boyfriend named Valentine,
Yes.
right? And so you
Yeah.
thought you were going to get all of this transparency and cleaning up the budget and oh, best we can do is a new porn character. Right? You fell for it?
Yeah. Yes. I knew. Yes, that's what they're giving us. And apparently she's supposed to be 16 years old. Like
Oh,
that's not
Lord have
disturbing.
So, okay,
Yeah.
this is let's just like rewind a tiny bit because the degradation of the West is what is going to um allow people to allow this to happen because they're like, "Oh, it's so bad. The CP, the Pizzagate, the gender mutilation, Western women are terrible." I mean, I hear this rhetoric all the time, and I've even heard it from clergy, like Western women have something wrong with them. Like, how can we even choose where to be born?
Right.
You can't, you can only do with what you have. And they're like, you should go to Eastern Europe to find a wife. And it's just like, I, this is
Wow.
part of the idea that this is an Islamic idea too, death to the West.
Right.
Right? You're the great Satan. You're the great Hollywood that has ruined the entire world. And we have to like come in with our morals and clean it up. And it's not that they're like wrong about everything, but the Western women in particular, they're always attacking.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, how can they even be held responsible for where you're born? It's ridiculous.
It's totally ridiculous. And it's not like Western women are somehow like responsible for all the problems in the world, right? Yeah. And it's not like they're so much worse than everybody else. It's just they have to create some sort of a stark polarity, right?
They
Because
have
it's so different.
they have to have a narrative that we are ruined and we have to be burned down and replaced by more traditional women. So we have to
Yeah.
be shut up and put in out to pasture or whatever. They're going to recycle us into the matrix. I don't know. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So I went through in the article like the origins of the Phoenix because I think a lot of people have a very positive association if they're not immersed in the occult.
Mhm.
They have this vision of like it's rebirth and it's overcoming, but it does have a very alchemical and a occult kind of semiotic.
And not only a cult, but like fantasy land, like
Yes.
sci-fi, um,
Yes.
10th dimension. So last time we talked about Peter Thiel and how Palantir was the stone, the evil stone from Lord of the Rings, and he was like obsessed with dwarves and dark elves and like all this stuff. And in your article, you talk about the Teal Fellowship and Curtis Yarvin, who made the acronym RAGE, right?
Mhm.
Retire all government employees. And I thought it was interesting it was called rage because we talk a lot about rage bait because that is the drug that gets you hooked to these social medias and gets you
Yeah.
following all of these different personalities that are there to lead you down different specific paths. And also, if you retire all the government employees at this point, that's like well, almost 40% of the American workforce is somehow employed by the government or
Yeah.
like subsidies of that. That's a lot of jobs.
Yeah, a lot of jobs. And people think that they're just going to retire all the employees and somehow we're going to streamline all this bureaucracy and get rid of all this, bloated overspending. It sounds very lovely, except what they're replacing it with, right? That's the part that it's like they cut it off mid-story. And they did tell you, they said that they want to replace it with AI. But yeah, people
Yeah.
somehow didn't hear that because that wasn't what they wanted to hear.
So, what is the Seasteading project? Because they're talking about how to reboot the government, right? And phoenix it. And then you have all these weird secret projects going on, like we're going to talk about in the next show, Epstein and his space babies and the ocean and all like Ghislaine Terramar. But so, what is the Seasteading project here?
The seasteading is a concept that Peter Thiel came up with. He put $1.7 million into it, and it is very reminiscent of Terramar.
Mhm.
But it was this idea that you would have little city states on international waters, so they're not subject to, the laws of sovereign nation states. And it didn't really take off. And so Balaji Srinivasan ran with this concept of network states. And that has really been, quite accepted. Like a lot of the Silicon Valley and others are really taking off with it. And so in his book, and the whole premise behind network states is that Balaji says that we're going to have a dissolution of geographical nation states in favor of ideological cyber network states. But and I did put the quote in my article, he says that he still thinks seasteading, because he like puts a whole section talking about seasteading and how that inspired this concept of network states. But he
Mhm.
says that he still thinks seasteading has a huge potential, but we have to get network states off the ground first, and then we can start crowdfunding for cruise ships and yachts, and we're going to have our seasteading.
So, would a cruise ship be like a floating village with under its own jurisdiction and laws and
Yeah,
things like that? Okay.
exactly. So it would have to be far enough out. I think that's the idea, is that they do. So it's kind of like all of these zones, right? They call them ZEDs because it comes from the Spanish term, but it's essentially these unregulated economic zones, right? Special economic zones. And Prospera is one of them, right? That's Peter Thiel's Prospera. It's in Roatan, Honduras, and they have the subsidiary. It was Vitalia. They renamed it to Infinita. It was a city where death is optional, apparently. You can still find that on the Wayback Machine on when they call it Vitalia. But
And
that's
just to remind y'all, Teal is the guy who's like taking other people's blood, and they're all interested in living forever and stem cells and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Yes, yes, they're doing all sorts of life extension types of experiments down there. I mean, in general, he's
Mhm.
involved in a bunch of technologies of that realm. But in Prospera, they're doing those experiments very openly because there's no regulation, and so that's what they want with seasteading. I think that's why they're saying, on the ocean, because you don't have the laws like in a nation state. You have to comply with the laws, but in these little network states, you don't either. But who become the lawmakers? It's the tech oligarchs.
So it's kind of like when you go to the South and you can't gamble, but if you get on a riverboat, you can gamble.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So if they have all these little tiny, what do you call them? Neo-cameralist city states?
Hmm.
Is that
Hmm. Yeah,
who's going to
that's
rule over those if they're self-governing? Like, where does the king come in?
Oh, so that's Curtis Yarvin's concept, and
Ah,
he believes that there's going to be a CEO tech king.
okay.
So we'll have, like, he says that the problem with America is that it needs a reboot. He did an actual speech calling rebooting the government back in 2012, and he said this is where he had that rage sign behind him,
Mhm.
and says that we need to get over our fear of the dictator. So we have to get over a fear of dictatorship, because the best thing, and he actually did a blog on this where he was this was back in Trump's, Trump 1.0, his first term. He was talking about how Trump was going to come back, and he was so excited because he was going to be the CEO. So he was going to be a dictator. He was going to run the country like a startup business. He calls them Solve Corps. So Nick Land calls it Gov Corp, but Curtis Yarvin calls it Solve Corp. It's essentially the same thing. It's this idea that we shouldn't have nation states. We should be run like a company, a startup company. And he says the CEO is basically the dictator of the company, and that's how that we should be run.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to be the king? It's going to be the tech king, right? It's going to be, and then they use that term as well. So,
well, dictators are so cuddly. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah, they're all warm fuzzy, and
hey, guess who's making a comeback is Tiny Mustache Man.
Yeah, they say he's the good guy now.
And
I don't know, I missed that, but
don't think anti-Semitism isn't going to play a part in this. And y'all got me feeling sorry for the Jews. Now I've had a tinfoil hat for 20 years, and I'm like, okay, we're going too far with the Jews. You know what I mean? It's not all the Jews. And or it's not all the Jesuits. It's not all one crazy group. But
as I keep saying, the only game people learned how to play growing up was pin the tail on the donkey.
Yeah.
Like, they really think the world is that simple? Like, really?
Yeah. Yeah. And they say that these places are going to make people happy, healthy, or holy. What do you think they mean by or holy?
Wait, who says this?
I think Curtis Yarvin, that was a quote in your article. He said it will make its citizens happy, healthy, or holy.
Oh yeah, because they think that this is the holy way. They think that this is the divine mandate. That's what Teal said. So Teal has a lot of they have a lot of influence on each other.
Mm-hmm.
So Teal calls Yarvin the household philosopher.
Mm-hmm.
And Yarvin says Teal is very enlightened. So, and Teal had done, it was in 2009, he wrote an essay for Cato Unbound.
Mm-hmm.
And he says how he no longer sees democracy and freedom as being compatible. So they both share this idea that we have to eradicate democracy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Yarvin's not particularly religious, but I think so I don't know that he's using the term holy in like a religious sense, but Teal is trying to. I don't know that he's truly Christian. Not my place to judge, but I don't know how he commensurates a lot of the ideas with
you saw his interview where they're like, should the human race continue? And he's like,
They're like, well, it depends on what form, right? Are we talking about technoplastic beings? Then maybe.
It depends on what you mean. Like,
yeah,
easy question, but he was really stumped on that one, and it gives you a window into how these people think. Like, should it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. It was from his Gray Mirror, The Restoration of Public Truth, right? The mission of the new regime would not only make its citizens happy, healthy, or holy, its missions would be to maximize the value of assets, which are nothing but its citizens and their property. As a corporation, its board could fire its CEO for anything. And as a government, it could do so only for mismanagement. So I just want people keep saying this, oh, it's voluntary, but once it's under a smart contract, good luck changing that. Like, that's not a human you're negotiating with. It can be difficult to get out of like a human contract, but that's written on paper. But once it's on a like recursive smart contract, I think that's going to be a very different story. But yeah, so he's essentially just saying like that's the under the government structure that we have now, the job is to make the citizens happy, healthy, and holy. But he's saying that this would be to replace it with a corporate structure where the only mission is profit. So,
Mm-hmm.
right.
And they talk a lot about something called the cathedral, which is basically just like the unelected bureaucrats and the media figures and the academics, which form a sort of parallel influence shadow government, right, of characters that shape our opinions.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
he says we need something called the butterfly revolution. Now, this piqued my interest because, every time we talk about butterflies, it's going to be something about mind control.
Right.
But I just thought, does this have anything to do with, because they have been conditioning us with MK Ultra since at least the 50s as a society on a large scale operation. And I would argue that most of the public is under this MK Ultra influence spell, by proxy, mind control. What do you think?
I think so too. So this is what he says. So it's from his Gray Mirror, which I think is funny, like because the show Black Mirror
Yeah.
is such like predictive programming, and so he names his blog Gray Mirror. His first blog, the one starting in 2007, was Unqualified Reservations, and it's long because it's decades. But what he said, this is when he's talking about how Trump is going to come in and be the CEO. And he said, what Trump is going to do is rebuild this regime in exile or occupation authority as a private and, needless to say, peaceful institution, a larva. By winning a presidential election, he will then install it in office, metamorphosing into beautiful butterfly. This larva will perform the feat that eluded Trump's first regime, turning office into power. As soon as it takes symbolic power, the butterfly will be ready, willing, and able to take actual power to actually make America great again. You've seen nothing. And then he goes on. But yeah, so he is using, I do think that it has some sort of a mind control kind of reference, but he's not very, for all the poetic reference, I don't know. I feel like he's actually kind of shallow. So I don't know how much he's aware of that or how much that was like he's been kind of controlled,
I like the image of Trump as a larva. That's kind of
I
funny.
know. I know.
He's this little caterpillar.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Because I feel like it's kind of odd that he was catapulted. I feel like so he seems like a construct of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think Peter Thiel was very instrumental in that. Peter Thiel invested in he did a project called Urbit. It was back in like, I think 2002 or 2004. And Urbit was kind of like an early network state. And Peter Thiel, I don't remember how much he invested, but was like one of the primary investors in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he kind of launched Yarvin. And I don't know that Yarvin's ideas would have so much influence if it weren't for Thiel's sponsorship.
And he goes by the name Mencius Molbug too, right? So you can find things written by him about monarchy and all kinds of different ideas, theocracies and things like that, right?
Yes. So and his blog that was at the Unqualified Reservations is under Mencius Molbug. And I don't know exactly why he chose that. I mean, I have theories on it, but yeah, but I
bug. So a mole, like under the dirt, but it's kind of like a spy or like a mole, like an embedded spy.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's also kind of like a poison that like spreads.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, Molbug. Mencius, yeah.
Let's talk about another character real quick that we have mentioned before, Nick Land. So you talk about him in your Phoenix article. So he's the like philosophical component to this, right? And the accelerationism.
Yes. I'm going to do another article on accelerationism because they essentially see I described like the game B as the left-hand path and the dark enlightenment as the right-hand path, and it's really of accelerationism.
Mm-hmm.
So that is his philosophy, this idea that capitalism is doomed to fail anyway, and that we should use it, and we should use technology to push capitalism to the nth degree so it reaches this apocalyptic state, and so we can become GovCorps and technoplastic beings.
So we can burn it down like a phoenix, right? So accelerate and get it over with,
So the
basically.
apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah, apocalyptic. It crashes and burns down. Yep.
To a post-human future. So it's nothing awesome. It's like you just said, those weird things that I wrote down that I'm going to make you explain what those things are in a second. But so Nick Land, he takes cybernetics, a Nietzschean Ubermensch, Superman philosophy, what else? Sci-fi,
Yes.
right?
His
Um,
his hyperstition. Yep.
and the occult idea of will to power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And created this what was it called? CCRU?
Yes, the Cybernetic Culture Research Unit. It was a part of the philosophy department at Warwick University, and Sadie Plant was his partner who created it, and she was like a cyberpunk feminist.
Mm-hmm. And so were they trying to figure out how the internet could equalize a lot of things in society? Like was one of their goals, right?
Yeah, I mean, they have a weird notion of equalization, though. I don't know because they're all hierarchy.
Uh-huh.
So I think Sadie brings that because it was the feminist element. So in that regard, I think there was the egalitarian concept. But Nick Land is, I mean, he's a dark enlightenment proponent. So he is straight up all for hierarchical structures. So he's not really advocating for any kind of egalitarian system.
So I went to one of the links, the like occult links for the CCRU.
Yes.
It was definitely out there. I'm like, I don't
Yes.
understand what this graph is saying, but yeah, okay. So you've got the hobgoblins in the mix,
Yes.
occultism, the techno culture, something called hyperstition. What is that?
Mhm.
Oh, you're all black. What happened?
I went black. Oh no. Oh boy. Hang on.
Did you
Let's
pay the
fix
light?
that.
It's like a cartoon. Like I just need to see your little white eyes now.
Uh,
And we're back. We found Courtenay. She's been illumined. She's gone from darkness to light. Um, and we were talking about CCRU and what is hyperstition?
Hyperstition. Yeah. So hyperstition is this idea that you take like fictional ideas, concepts, and characters, and you manifest them into reality.
Okay. So just
Yeah.
making stuff from your imagination
Yeah.
and getting
But
on board with it. Okay.
yeah, like it's to actually creating reality out of these just fictional ideas. So you're seed, it's like manifesting.
Okay. So this is what the Nick Land and the CCRU were interested in. You've got technoculture, techno
So in
capital. I'm sorry.
Oh no, in his like he actually describes it. He says hyperstition is a term used to describe self-fulfilling prophecies
Mm.
that come through existence and spread. It is associated with science fiction, speculative fiction, futurism, occultism, and conspiracy theories. Hyperstition was coined by the British cultural theorist Nick Land and Mark Fisher to describe the way in which certain cultural ideas or narratives can become self-fulfilling prophecies. The term is a portmanteau of the
Mm.
words hyper, meaning beyond or above, and superstition, meaning belief or practice that is not based on reason or knowledge. In other words, hyperstition are beliefs or stories that through their very existence and dissemination bring about their own reality or truth. And they are often associated with the fields of science fiction, speculative fiction, futurism, as well as with certain forms of occultism and conspiracy theory. Yeah.
Would life imitating art fall under this too?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what he's doing. He's he's got his like Shaggoth character and yeah, he's a lot of references from Lovecraft. He's very inspired by Julius Evola. Yeah.
Okay. Lovecraft. Here we go.
Yeah.
Like Necronomicon, dark, black
Yes.
stuff.
Yes.
Well, speaking of that, he talks about techno capital as alien intelligence. What does he mean by
Mhm.
alien intelligence? Just like something foreign or actually like
Yeah.
The cool aliens.
No, no, he's talking about just like foreign, like it's something that's not. Yeah, he's not. Yeah, not UFO.
Talking to beings from Sirius like Esalen.
Yeah, no, he's just saying that it's like some sort of foreign. He says that about capitalism too, in general. Like he feels like capitalism is like an alien kind of force that's being projected.
I also agree with that. Like,
yeah,
the way that it extends into, the late stages and just like total greed and
yeah,
exploitation. That's pretty foreign to human nature, in my opinion. But
yeah.
so what is a hyper racist entity?
Okay, so this, and you have to go to the Wayback Machine for this. I did link it in the article. A lot of these are from the Wayback Machine because there you can't find them anymore. But hyper racist, he starts off and he talks about how like it's not racist or anti-racist. We have to become hyper racist, which basically means that we have to go beyond species. So he's really talking about like genetic eugenics. He's talking I would classify it under positive eugenics, but genetic selection and using like a synthetic biology and genetic breeding. So we're essentially creating a new race.
Well, didn't that just come out in the news a couple days ago? New technology for like deleting diseases and designer babies is all the rage, and they are really perfecting this Gattaca like society, right?
Remember that movie? Like, yeah, I feel like I didn't think we'd live to see it quite yet.
It's the biological caste system.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. Yeah, and of course, Elon is very much, people champion that he's a pro-natalism, but meanwhile, basically advocating like petri dish babies.
Yeah. We're gonna get to that in part 2 of this because the whole
Yeah.
birth rate like de debate and have as many babies as you can, right on the heels of I thought we were overpopulated. It's just so many ways that people are swung to and fro and like what is our duty? I thought our duty was to not have babies. Now it's our duty to have as many babies as possible. And they're not realizing that this is just like a Hegelian pendulum, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yep.
So
This one is creepy. And the article has like this weird kind of like slit eye kind of alien looking man on the cover of it. Yeah, it's kind of creepy.
and
But he said in this quote, he says races will not exist once they are reduced by practical politics and libidinal indiscriminary into relics of contingent historical partition.
what does that mean?
Yeah. So I think he's saying that like when because he's talking about how like we have to move beyond these cultural barriers where everything's like all the kind of like race dynamics and identity politics, and he's saying we're really going to move past it. And then I know in here I'm trying to find where he says it, but he essentially talks about how we're going to move forward into basically a new race, which is like a genetic selection type of a race. Yeah.
Are these the technoplastic beings he's talking about
Yeah.
that we were going to evolve? So in plastic meaning like malleable, right? Not like actually
Oh,
non-carbon
I actually no, I think he's
or
like
plastic.
yeah, like cyborg.
Oh, okay, okay. So, so fun. Technoplastic
Yeah.
being because they think that game A, what we live in, aka reality,
Yes.
is doomed, right? And
Mhm.
I don't like the idea of blowing it up and starting over because a lot of things are going to get hurt in the process. I think we can like grow from where we're at. We don't have to, swipe the board clean. I feel like we can just do some pruning, and some reflecting and get to a better place without destroying the entire thing because a lot of people are going to suffer in that.
I would agree. So the game B people are much more incremental. So it's more of a scientific socialism than it is like a radical reboot. The Dark Enlightenment, they talk about reboot, like we got to tear it down and start over. We've got to get to the apocalyptic state where capitalism is just done and the current state is over, so that we can move into this new kind of autocratic techno king ruled world. So they frame it differently, but they both end up in this kind of transhuman technocratic realm. But I did actually put the quote on the technoplastics in the article.
That sounds like a cool band name. We're the Technoplastics. Yeah.
I know. A lot of these do hyperplasmic.
Mhm.
I mean, of words that would be great for some sort of like a goth band. Yeah.
Like a steampunk band.
Well, yeah, his blog is called Xenosystems, and then his newest one is called Xenogothic.
Mhm.
But I did put the link at the. You might have seen this one. It was Xeno dot occult dot uk.
Mm.
Yeah, that's one of his also, which was like focused on occult elements.
So you've got, it's so crazy how you make all these things converge, because you've got techno pagans teaming up with Theo Bros
Yes.
to get this done, to get us in shackles and glued to our devices at all times and not able to go outside or have any agency whatsoever. We are going to be stuck to the internet and be happy. And the Theo Bros you talk about, they are adding the divine mandate to the techno authoritarianism. So
Yes.
who are these Theo Bros that you're talking about?
Yeah, so we've got a bunch of them. We have the like Pete Hegseth was one of them. Who else did we have? We've got Chris Berzik. We have, I'm trying to remember
Is
all of these.
Doug Wilson one of these guys?
Doug Wilson is kind of like the guru. He's one of the leaders.
Okay.
Yes.
So these are the men who merge Reformed theology with Silicon Valley supremacism. So you've got the snobby Christian attitude with the snobby Silicon Valley computer attitude. And they are explicitly advocating for replacing the democratic governance with biblical law.
Yes.
Which I don't think is as cool as it sounds. I think that's terrifying, actually. I think it sounds so crazy.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is pretty scary.
I mean, honestly, it's because these guys, I can see right through them. If somebody with their right mind was running for office, maybe like Father Josiah Trenum or somebody like who has common sense, then I would be more on board with this. But it's the crazy wackadoodle cult evangelical TV preacher like carnival barker guys that are setting this up.
Yes, exactly. And then there's the Gundo Bros. I talked about them too. And they're like using like military technology, and they're using the divine mandate to control people with their military technology.
Gundo Bros. So these are the defense tech culture guys from El Segundo, right? And they're like very pro what masculinity is one of their big things.
Yeah.
And computers?
Yeah, computers and like military equipment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So like Raytheon kind of stuff. Uh-huh.
Yeah. There wasn't a whole lot on them. But yeah, like one of the articles was Gundo Bros electromagnetic war and Google's AI for defense. So it's literally like defense tech. So like Palantir kind of stuff.
Religion?
This was specifically electromagnetic defense, but yeah.
Uh-huh. Religious computer programmers for Christian nationalism. And well, a lot of these things that you see going around on X were from these people. Like you talk about the Communion of Reformed Evangelical Churches. And this was the thing that was founded by Doug Wilson. And one of their big things was repeal the 19th, right?
Yep. Yes.
I don't even care. Voting is fake and gay anyway. Come get it. I don't even care. Like, watch me not pay taxes. If you take away women's right to vote, that's it. I am not filing ever again.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and also calling for the implementation of public flogging for certain crimes. Now, this was going around like maybe like 6 or 8 months ago, where that one guy, what's his name, Joel Webbon.
Yes, I was going to bring him up. He's not in my article, but yeah, he's definitely one of them.
He was talking about how he would advocate for women being publicly executed
Yeah,
for certain crimes, like lying. And
yeah.
I'm like, what? Like,
Who's going to be the arbiter?
I don't want to
Who's
see that.
the arbiter? I definitely don't want to see that.
Nobody wants to see that. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure you have a couple women in mind already.
Uh,
um, but just very, what do you call it? Draconian style,
yeah,
like
yeah.
stoning type stuff, which that is
Right.
not Christian at all. Like that is not New Testament. That is not Christ. That is very
Yeah,
BC, if that makes
yeah,
right.
totally. Yeah. Um, it's yeah, it's very all of those things. It's yeah. The other one was Augustus Dorico, who was the founder of Rainmaker,
Mm.
and they was involved in like the. I mean, he pretty much admitted that his technology was involved in the floods in Texas.
Oh, okay. So that's come out that
Like
that was the actual.
he was interviewed in like and it was a very short clip, but the way he said it was kind of like an admission.
Mhm.
I don't know. You'd have to go and listen and decide for yourself. But I mean, he definitely cloud seeded in that area. I mean, that's why the company's called Rainmaker. That's what they do. So they admitted that, obviously. But this was like Peter Thiel's fellowship that funded him. And he's like one of these kind of like, part of the American dynamism movement.
Mhm.
So,
Well, weather modification is like conspiracy 101. That's
yeah. And
very
it's so,
basic.
I know, and it's been around since like the 50s. It's so, I mean, the whole that was like in the Vietnam War. A lot of it, all of that was about all the weather modification research that they were doing
Yeah.
as warfare.
So your Gundo Bros, your weird pastors, your Fred Phelps, your Operation Missionary. Remember that's what it was called, right? Operation Missionary.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of seems like what's going on. I don't know.
That's this 2.0, right? Operation Missionary
Yes.
2.0. And now you've
Well,
got
and this was
Mhm.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say it was also relevant because of JD Vance, right? This is, and I think Pete Hegseth is pretty relevant as well, right? Like he's calling for doing all these religious kind of ceremonies in the political arena, and so I thought it's very significant that he's wielding that kind of influence. And JD Vance is tied in with like these CHRE kind of churches, so.
Would you say that Trump was just like paving the way for JD Vance, like they had their eye on him to bring these things?
I think it's the opposite. I
Oh.
think that they want JD Vance. JD Vance is their puppet. So I don't think Trump was like instrumental so much as like I think Trump is like he's a conduit.
Mhm.
So, but I think JD Vance is who they want. If they could get JD Vance in now, I think they would.
Mhm.
Like I actually think if they can, I've had these theories and I mean, it's really just speculative, but if they can tie all of this, Epstein stuff to Trump and somehow implicate him and then start like impeachment discussions. They would love nothing more than to get their Vance puppet in as soon as possible, I think.
And they just love to do this thing where they act like they've given you something, like the whole overturning the Roe v. Wade stuff.
All right.
But now all the things that are happening are even worse because you're having these cases where if a woman has like a miscarriage or ectopic pregnancy or some kind of scary thing, she can be charged with murder. Now they're calling mothers host bodies. instead of pregnant women, you are now a host body. So the birth rate weirdness, um, the whole idea of uh the fecundity of, having lots of kids is getting mixed in here. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but when you're like pushing it on people and manipulating them with these ideas, it gets hairy. And then you had that case where they kept that lady alive for months and months because she was pregnant on life support when they should have just taken her off and let her go peacefully. They wanted to have the baby. I don't think these people care about babies. I don't think they care about women.
Like, no.
And they care more about hypothetical babies than they do about actual real women. And I don't think they've given us anything wholesome for free. I think the overturning of these things and instituting of new laws is just going to get creepier outcomes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think they do a lot of that kind of like bait and switch. It's so that because you see, it's like when another example would be Trump banning the CBDCs, right? Everybody's cheering, we're so excited, yay! We don't have central bank digital currencies, and meanwhile, he's like marching in the Congress-backed digital currencies, which I actually think are worse. I mean, many. I'm not in favor of central bank digital currencies, but at least they have some regulatory oversight.
Mm-hmm.
The Congress-backed ones, I don't know. To me, that's just a vehicle for complete tokenization and done through these private companies. So the kind of power that they'll have with that and the kind of technocratic kind of control they would have, I think is really dystopian. So, but I think that's what they do oftentimes. Like they give you this little, they dangle the carrot so people can feel pacified. Like, oh, okay,
We're
it's
winning,
good.
Courtney.
Yeah, we're winning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stuff's getting better.
Yes, we're winning. Yeah. We march right into our techno-feudal enslavement. We are winning. Yeah.
Well, and under this type of hierarchy, the platform owners are going to be the new feudal lords, as you said. So like Elon Musk owning Twitter, like he can silence anyone, he can platform anyone, he can boost anyone. And you just have so few platforms on the internet now that this is consolidated into a few hands, just like the mainstream media was.
Yes. Yep. And they become the tech kings, right?
Mhm.
So if X becomes or Twitter or whatever becomes the everything app and it's like the WeChat that he wants to make it, like
Mhm.
who's the king? Who's the ruler? I mean,
Well,
it's
especially
not
when it
just
becomes a banking app too.
I know that's what he's saying. He wants it to be the everything.
Yeah.
Right. That was the whole vision of PayPal. PayPal was to eradicate the dollar. It was to replace the dollar. That was the whole purpose of PayPal. So for people who don't remember, PayPal, the PayPal mafia, as they're called, was Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, and David Sacks, who is essentially like a self-appointed crypto czar right
Mhm.
now. It's for Trump administration, right? Because he was appointed as a special advisor. They only have like 130 days or 130 something days, right? And so he's past that point, but he's basically like self-appointed now. So he's the crypto czar. But that was the whole purpose. And I do just like to remind people is not just Elon. I mean, even Dorsey still has, ownership of Twitter. But yeah, it essentially ends up in the tech oligarchs' hands. So they have the say, not us, we the people.
I mean,
Using the app.
I don't know about you, but I can't even remember all of the websites I used to visit because like in the 2000s, you'd have what, 10, 20 tabs of bookmarks that you like, I like this one, this one, this one, this one, and you go and have your fun in all the different places. And now
Yeah.
I go X and TikTok. That's it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
because I'm trying to spend less time online, but it's like there's no more fun places. It's just like these two giant places where it's not that fun anymore.
Yeah, it's all consolidated and it's kind of a cesspool.
Mhm.
It's cool.
So you talk about the pipeline from Christian nationalism to advanced weapons development, and that's the Gundo Bros. And
Yes.
essentially, these are the poles between left and right are pushed to extremes to create the technocratic synthesis. That's what you were talking about with Elon and the third party. And you mentioned that his grandfather, Joshua Haldeman, was a key figure in Canada's Technocracy Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
And we did do a show a long time, maybe like 3 years ago, called Elon Musk's Slippery Sorcery, where we talk all
Ooh.
about his like life and history. And then I did read a 600-page biography of Elmo.
Whoa.
I don't think I'll ever report on it just because I don't want to get banned off Twitter, but I did take a lot of notes on that just for personal reference, like who is this person? And basically my take is, he's a classic Bond villain with all of the bells and whistles, all of it. Every aspect of it, right?
Right.
And he's the one pushing for the technocracy's radical center, or what he calls the third way, right?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't use the term third way. He does use the term the center, right? He keeps saying like we need the 80% middle. And I actually responded to him like that's nice, but we've tried that before, we know where that leads. But it is that is the premise of third way, is that there you have this radical center. So it's they push the ends to the extreme. So people are so fed up. And yes, our system is flawed, but last time I checked, any system humans create will be inherently flawed. So, that doesn't necessarily mean these other ideas are going to be better. It just means they're preying on the fact that people recognize there are flaws in our system and that it is like a Hegelian dialectic. And so they're like, oh, we've got these moderate centrist people, come join us. But it's not. It's a radical center. That's what they call it. Radical. The third way calls it the radical center. And he says, Anthony Giddens says it has to be left of center. So right there tells you this radical center, first of all, the name radical should be a clue, but it tells you that it's not in the middle. It's left of center. And he says it has to be left of center for their social and emancipatory goals. So it will always be left of center. And essentially what it looks like is really, this is a vehicle to usher in the technocracy. And I think this United Independent movement is a really big clue, because first of all, who jumped on board to support Elon's quote unquote American party, which seems anything but American right away. I mean, he's South African, not even American, but I think
he doesn't even go here.
Yeah, right. I think he did get naturalized, but yeah, he's not like, yeah. But so we've got Andrew Yang, who jumped on board to support him right away. And Andrew Yang's whole slogan is it's not left, it's not right, it's forward. Right. So very progressive. And Andrew Yang is totally a technocrat. And then right after that, he comes out and says that he consulted with Curtis Yarvin on creating this new American party. I don't know what Yarvin knows about starting a new party, or Americanism, because he seems to be very fundamentally opposed to everything that is American, like the constitutional republic. But yeah, he has gotten the support, garnered the support of these two. And then you look at this Operation Phoenix movement, which is it's Christopher Life, the United Independents, who's tied in with Brock Pierce. They are doing this Operation Phoenix to flood Congress in 2026 with quote unquote independence. But when they talk about their platforms, they want blockchain voting. They want things like a UBI, which, by the way, is not going to be UBI. When you think of UBI, it's universal basic income, right? Well, this is really going to be CBI. It's going to be conditionally based income, because you think they're just going to give you willy-nilly, like, go spend on whatever you want. No, it's all going to
not if you're not submissive enough, Courtney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better bow down to Uncle Sam.
Yeah, either that or we're going to be like pedaling on our bikes for crypto mining, like a Black Mirror episode. I don't know.
Yeah, or we'll have to pay to not be on OnlyFans.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't that like an episode? It was very similar. It wasn't. Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, fun times.
Of that, you talk a lot about tokenization, and that's kind of what those episodes are about. Like, you don't own anything. You don't work for anything. Everything is stored in the digital world, which means it doesn't exist.
Right.
In one way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, it doesn't exist. It's so the best way people can, like, the best analogy that I think people can really relate to right now is think about the stock market. I'm not saying invest, that's not what I'm saying, but when you look at your portfolio, people think they own that money, but they don't. It's a digital ledger.
Mhm.
Now, you can get a physical certificate. If you get that certificate, you own it. And then they have to honor that. That's a lot of people don't know that. And a lot of bankers don't love if you ask for it, because it's extra work for them, and it takes away from their ownership actually, and it also makes it a little bit more time consuming in terms of if they want to just trade positions for you. So if you have somebody who's like managing and moving things around, they'd have to then consult you and get the transaction first. So I'm just letting people know that that's something people can do, but typically you just have a digital ledger and you don't really own it. And that's what tokens are. It's just a digital representation. But they're seizing all the assets. And I'm very concerned about this because they're moving everything they're setting up the infrastructure with this big, beautiful bill that's really doesn't look so beautiful. It may be very big, but I think Elon did get that part right. Although, everything else looks like it might be more theater than not. But I agree, it's not so beautiful. And then he passed this Genius Act, and now he's rolling out. They're working on the Clarity Act and the Stable Act. This is all setting up the infrastructure for digital currency that will lead to potentially tokenization. I mean, I think tokenization is where they want to go. So it's really all about setting up that whole infrastructure, though. And people think fiat currency is bad. What happens when, like, you literally own nothing? And then what happens when they start transitioning into this and people are in debt, right? And so they can offer you some sort of a deal. Well, we'll give you, twice what your mortgage is and pay you off in tokens. But then you don't own your home. When people pay a mortgage, they do it because they think they're working towards some ownership. We can argue about how much they really own.
Yeah,
Unless
you have
a
a
land.
thing in your hand that you can touch, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
But I mean, like, unless you have a land patent, like you pay taxes on your home, and so technically you still rent it. But you have more ownership than you would otherwise because you do have a deed, right? You have that paper, that title. But if they tokenize and then they seize the assets, then it's literally you own nothing and be happy. I don't know about the happy part, unless we're all drugged into loving our servitude in Huxley's Brave New World. But other than that, I'm not so sure about the happy part.
So this is the process of converting all of our assets into, well, not only that, our rights and you say our identities into
Yes.
digital tokens. So, um, classic
Yes.
conspiracy time is your birth certificate is your like certificate of ownership of the British Crown or something like you've heard that, right? Like we all have money invested in our name, and if you only knew how, then you can go get millions of dollars that they've invested.
I know people who I actually know people who bought cars with
Oh,
that.
really?
Like, yeah, like they've actually bought cars based on their quote unquote worth. They've like retracted it back from, yeah.
I admire that. I don't have enough
I do
patience
too.
for bureaucracy like that, but yeah,
Me either.
do it, dude. Go for it. But okay, so yeah, this is basically you are owned, or your straw man is owned by the
Your
British
digital twin.
Maritime Admiral,
Oh, this, yeah.
right? And so that's why your name in all caps is not you.
Right.
And
Exactly.
you have to have somebody speak for you in court because they know the law, the language of the law, blah, blah, blah. So now in the digital era, your whole identity now is going to be online and digitized, right?
Yeah.
And
So,
you won't be allowed access to certain things if you're a bad boy or girl. Right.
yes. So Game B really does like spell it out. And of course, they're much more like they present it all as it's going to be so great. And we're escaping the Malachian system of Game A. And we're moving into, the anti-rivalrous and anti-fragile, omni win-win Game B. But they talk about the technologies, and the technologies are these emerging technologies of Web3 and holochains. And Holochains is actually, so the buzzwords are like decentralized, which is totally just a scam. It is not decentralized. Even Balaji Srinivasan says that it is decentralized towards a re-centralized center. He literally says that in his book. So he tells you up front, this is not decentralized, it's re-centralized. It's like H.G. Wells' world brain, right? The ganglia of all the information institutions is going to be the conduit to create the world brain. And I would say to people today, what is the information institution today? It's the technology, it's the internet, right? And that's the conduit to create the noosphere. But they use these terms like decentralized. They create DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. And GameBee actually already has one. But again, it's really through these holo chains, you have this blockchain is already not really that secure because it's transparent. That's what they tout about it. It's like it's transparent, but if it's transparent, that means it's not private, right? You can't. But holo chains are now they say it's completely interoperable. So their big complaint with the system Game A is that you have all these echo chambers, these silos. So let's just take some social media platform, for instance. Like you can't really take your profile from Twitter to TikTok. Like when you're in one, you're in that world, and then when you're in the other, you're in the other, right? But the way that they're creating this infrastructure for the holochain is essentially like a digital twin. You would have that would be able to go from one to the other, and you don't like that profile completely goes in. Can weave in and out of all of these, so it's completely interoperable, which this means that there's no digital sovereignty in that. And there's no decentralization in that. That's like completely centralized.
And I've seen them grooming the children to accept this and actually want it through video games. So the most popular video games, I don't know if you knew this, are the I think they're called open world games, basically where you can build your own world, like Minecraft or or whatever, something that you can have that is your own creation online. And it keeps you from making things in the real world, and it's preparing you to live all of your life online and put all of your resources and attention to building something in the digital world that doesn't exist.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Very concerning that they are conditioning the young kids. Yeah.
Because I think Minecraft's one of the biggest games there ever was.
I think.
And the Minecraft movie was huge. And all you do is just take blocks, very Masonic, right?
Yeah.
Take cubes and you create worlds. So you are like a little, architect demiurge in Minecraft.
Yeah, essentially.
And speaking of, Gnosticism and secret societies and stuff, so to wrap this up, let's talk about the Phoenix, because that is the huge esoteric symbol of your whole article. And you were saying that they use this verbiage, burning the phoenix and out of the ashes. This is what we have been talking about for a long time, harkening back to, Manly P. Hall's Secret Destiny of America. This is it. This is the plan, the great work that they have been talking about. So this is the alchemical transformation. It's the Great Reset. It's the Phoenix hard reboot. Right?
Yeah. That's what it looks like. That's all these slogans, right? We've got to build back better, but we have to tear it down first. We have to, rise up from the ashes. I think I put the picture of the United Independents, right? It's independence rising above the ashes of the failing system.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of Phoenix in there. And of course, they're like, are you tired of watching the old political dynasty divisions, tear our country apart? It's all about like the two-party system. And we need to move into the transpolitical, transpartisan movement. But yeah, so this is, but the people who are doing this are the people who are doing Operation Phoenix to try and flood Congress in 2026. And actually, at that one, I can't get it because it's behind paywall now, and I got that screenshot from the way back. But I still can't get any video. But Brett Weinstein did do the keynote speech at 7 o'clock, and I've seen some rumors saying that it was the title was something like self-governance and phoenixing the republic. I don't know because I can't get access. So, but it would kind of make sense if he did that a year before. He then goes to rescue the republic and says we have to phoenix the republic. But sure, what that speech was about. But
and yeah, you mentioned CIA's Phoenix program, so that was in Vietnam, right? That was the whole Phoenix program. That didn't like some serial killers come out of that too.
I think so, but it was really like a whole mind control program. And, the whole slogan was that they had to burn down the West to rebuild it. And that's where they got it wasn't like an official slogan, but the idea that you have to burn the village to rebuild the village.
Oh, in Vietnam.
Yeah, in Vietnam. And they tortured them, right? It was really like trauma-based mind control.
And the Operation Phoenix, the new one that you've been talking about, that is the Congress like trying to get all of these people in Congress in 2026.
Trying to flood Congress in 2026 with quote unquote independence. But I think they're technocrats.
They're technocrats. Yeah, independent technocrats. Okay. So, but before they do all of this, the terrible West must fall. And they must get us on board thinking, yes, the terrible West must fall. And I remember we've talked about this before, but like the demoralization of the American people, one of the big things in the 90s was Monica Lewinsky and Bill Clinton, because before that, presidents, they had decorum. Right. If there was a scandal, that would never get out. Like, I'm sure presidents were doing wacky, like, look at Benjamin Franklin and Hellfire Club. Like, nobody knew about that. But Monica Lewinsky was all over the media because I think that they had to start implementing this idea that, the West is corrupt and that it's perverted, and even their leaders, all of them from the top down, death to America rhetoric. And now this is seeping into Americans, and they're falling for things like We Love Tiny Mustache Man was based, and just like all of this crazy propaganda. And so it's like the demoralization of us as a culture, and then they've got us divided racially, genderly, religiously, agely, right? Like, boomers against Gen Z or whatever. It's like anything that is an immutable part of who you are, they're going to pick that apart and set you over and against somebody who's different from you. Right.
Yep. Exactly. And speaking of like, the just complete debasement of the culture, I talked in here, I have Mark Gaffney. Now, Mark Gaffney is the guru to Aubrey Marcus, and they're doing their Eros Mystery Schools together. We can talk a little.
Okay, that just rang a bell because he was the one who was talking about like radical non-monogamy or some jazz.
It's radical monogamy. Gaffney calls it expanded monogamy, and it's the most sacred of all kinds. This is the most sacred kinds of monogamy. It is really just a rebrand of polyamory.
Dude,
but it is
called being horny, you guys. It's not special. You have to like make up all of these cults to go along with your wieners.
Well, yeah, it is polyamory. I mean, I actually watched a little of the, like the video that they did, and Mark Gaffney is his guru who's guiding him through all of this. And for me, I just felt awful for the wife, like, because she's again, not my place to judge, but it looks like someone who has a lot of real trauma, and they're exploiting it.
Yeah,
like they're just totally exploiting her. Like I really felt for her. Like, this is terrible. This is awful. And of course,
nice do you have to be to go along with something like that? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's really, really low. And he keeps saying, oh, like, they want to do this. It has nothing to do with like me supporting them, like financially supporting them. I'm like, okay, whatever.
Just like Elmo's baby mamas.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what we're seeing is this calculated immolation, burning by fire of the American constitutional republic to make way for the birth of a techno-feudal empire. And you say that our choice is between human freedom versus algorithmic control. And I just did a 3-hour show with Ruckus all about this algorithmic control and how this is like the new Tower of Babel, and it's making us all speak a different language because we don't see the same front page of news anymore. It's all tailored to our individual vices.
Yeah, so I did, and it's really long. I am going to work on putting it into like a book format to sell it as a book, but it's called the Algorithmic Oracle, and I started putting it into like a thing that formats it, and it says it's 120 pages as a book, so it is really long. But it's based on how my whole thesis is that the Delphi method was born out of sensitivity training. It was like the mechanistic variation of sensitivity training, which sensitivity training, Kurt Lewin's like formula essentially, but in the National Training Laboratories Manual in 1947, they admitted that it's brainwashing. And then the CIA in 1974, again, admitted it's brainwashing. But then we got the Delphi method out of the RAND Corporation, under the auspices that we needed something to forecast the efficacy of technology in wartime. And the whole premise behind it is that now with cybernetic algorithms, they've, combined both the sensitivity training and Delphi method techniques to program these cybernetic algorithms that are, feedback loops that are data mining you and then programming you in these various silos. So it's disturbing.
They're sorting you into your sim category, right?
Yes.
Where you can live online. Now, just to epilogue here, people are going to say, America is a Christian country. It's always been that way. It was founded on Christian principles, ... Yes and no. I want you to go watch the Manly P. Hall shows where they talk about they were Freemasonic Enlightenment Christian mystics, right? So this isn't the Christianity of Nana. This is way weirder. Lots of Quaker cults, Amish cults, just breakaway preachers and revivalists. This is the birth of America. It's Christian flavored.
Yes, I would say it was a mix. I mean, there were Christians, but there were also, it was mixed. That's why it was about freedom of religion. And people seem to think that means freedom from religion. No, it's freedom of religion. I may not like what you believe, but you have a right to believe it. So, yeah.
So that's where we're at. And next time I got Courtenay, we're going to talk about crazy Epstein and space babies and Bill Gates and clones, and we're going out of this world for sure. Lots more weird stuff, and the title American Sharia is going to make a lot more sense. So tell us what exciting things you have coming up and where to find your Phoenix article that we were just talking about.
Yeah. So yeah, I have a couple of more articles and some book projects in the works. And you can find all those articles at CourtenayTurner.substack.com. I spell my name like Courtenay. It is Courtenay, but it's COURTENAYTURNER. And you can also find me at CourtenayTurner.com. That's where all my podcasts are. And yeah, all the various ways you can support me. So thanks for having me.
You're welcome. You were lovely and brilliant as usual. And we will see you next time with space babies.
Yes.
And everyone have a good night.